Pathfinder News, Reviews, and Interviews podcast. I'm Ryan Costello.
And I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Param.
Today we are going to be joined by one of our bloggers. He's been with us for a little over a year now, a little under a year now, somewhere in the year range. We'll ask him. That'll be the first question we ask him after I'm done this introduction. He does a lot of our setting work, and so that is what inspired today's banter topic, one of many we hope to cover. In today's very loosely based, bantery episode, we're going to have it a nice casual episode after last week's very beefy episode, or 2 weeks ago. Yes, but we're joined by Randall Meyer. Randall, welcome.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Nice and warm compared to you guys.
No, it's fine here. Look at a map. Montreal's doing okay.
Montreal is always
there's
doing
no land
okay.
outside California.
No, Montreal's not always doing okay. Montreal is either the only one doing bad or the only one doing okay. We have our own little pocket of climate.
I didn't know you were exclusive or the city.
The city? Am I? Anyway, Randall, you have a couple of blogs. They're kind of we'll call them sister blogs because they cover similar topics for different systems. Why don't you tell people what you do for the network?
So for Groundbreaking, I write a world-building piece for Golarion-ish. It's mostly just based in Pathfinder, but I've pulled some pieces here and there, and it can be placed in a handful of small places within Golarion. It is a set location. It has set climates and peoples, and basically every week I either build upon something from a previous week or I take a prompt from our Discord chat. Love chatting with the group there. And from there I just kind of build and build and build.
Yeah, I just going to pause before you talk about your other blog to say I really appreciate just how active you are on the Discord chat. I think you may be the most active member of the network.
Sweet. I'm number one at something. Now it's time to be number two at something else.
You kind of go you kind of go very creative. What are some of like the weirder parts of your world that you, just as an example, that you've gone to?
For Groundbreaking currently, or just in general when I create?
For Groundbreaking on the blog.
So probably the weirdest thing I've done currently would be the stairs in the mists, and that's kind of a one-off that I picked up randomly from the internet, and I wanted something different in the fogs of the swamps, and I threw that out there as just a one blurb. I think it was in one of the original rumor mills, and then during a later one, somebody in the chat, I can't remember who now, somebody in the chat asked, threw out there that I should talk about Void, and I thought having stairs to nowhere and a monk who defends them would be kind of a interesting way to discuss the Void.
That is a really like a classical fantasy name for a location. It's just like giving it a name makes it even more mysterious somehow. Like all we know is we know nothing about this place. There's stairs. That's it.
Yes, and they're different every time you witness them, if you're able to witness more than one.
So. Now, was that something that started with that image that you found for it? Because it was like, it was such a perfect image for that article. It felt like you could have commissioned it.
I don't know how long ago, but it was somewhere around the time I started joining in the Discord chat and getting involved in No Direction in general, before I became a blogger. I saw a piece on Reddit where writing fictional stories as a search and rescue person, as if they were real things that he Stairs to Nowhere was something that he mentioned in it.
Okay, hold on everyone. We had a small little hiccup. I am seeing if we're back to normal.
Your video's not playing, but Randall and I are on the Twitch. Oh, there we go. Your video just showed up on the Twitch too.
Okay. Hey guys, can you all hear us just fine? In chat, some thumbs up if you're hearing us. We are back to normal. Okay, can you hear Ryan and Randall?
Hello. I'm
all right, yeah. Sorry about that. Some shenanigans happened with multiple windows and Discord wanting to be in both of them at the same time.
Discord.
Discord. You're much better than Skype, but that's not saying much.
All right, we ready to pick up where we left off, Baron?
We are ready.
All right, so sorry, Randall, you were talking about the guy on Reddit who was
Yeah,
writing
so-
stories about search and rescue.
Yeah, so he was doing fictional accounts of being search and rescue as if they were factual until he got to like, I don't know, 8 or 10 when he said, and if you want to read more, go to my Patreon or something. And I didn't catch all of it, but there was a mention of stairs to nowhere. And I thought, hey, if I take those, put them in a swamp, put them in the fog, it's even more mysterious and has that little horror bent to it that, you know, you don't normally get from just a standard swamp.
So was that one of your places for inspiration? Do you spend a lot of time on Reddit?
Not at all. I have no idea how or why I came across that. That was kind of a one-off for me. So
Where in Reddit was it? Because it sounds super intriguing.
I honestly, I haven't read it since then, and it's been easily a year. I'd have to go Googling it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, other than that, I have no idea where my ideas come from. They just hit me. TV, books, billboards. You never know.
Billboards. Is that a specific example or just something off the top of your head?
Just something off the top of my head.
Oh, okay. So we were going to find out about like the Pepsi Islands or something.
There's a really great interstate that all the famous writers go to, and then that's where that's where we got the entirety of the Lord of the Rings extended canon.
I think you're joking.
I've been there.
Well, now I don't know who's joking. What is your ultimate goal for your campaign setting?
That I don't know. I thought as a set piece, actually, it started because when I got started following No Direction, you guys had just started the Create Demiplane, and
Yeah,
I was
on the
following
Reddit
along with
Sanctuary
that.
podcast.
And when you guys set that aside, that was when I thought I had something I could, provide the audience that they liked.
I don't think we've had any other retired piece of material requested more than Create Demiplane.
You guys did a good job with it, and the direction you were going with it was fun. I wanted to do the same, but I wanted to start less grand, I guess. Pick an area, define a location, and build up. You guys were not all over the place, but you were starting big and moving down. We needed, a reason for the place to exist. We need what they believe in there. And I'm just taking the opposite approach to that, I think.
And just to qualify which you guys you're talking about, this was Andrew and Anthony's, or not Andrew, it was Alex and Anthony's baby. They were
Sorry,
doing it on
there's just No Direction in general.
over the blog.
Yeah, just No Direction in general.
That's fine. I just want to make sure that the credit is given to the creators.
Yeah, sorry.
So, is this how you approach a home game? If you're building a campaign setting, do you just start with, boom, it's 100% about this city, and now we've got to build around it because people are starting to get curious?
When I first started running home games, it was running in the world that my friend had adapted from the original Forgotten Realms. And I got sick of working with an adapted version of a printed world. I took the small pamphlet of Greyhawk. It had maps, and I made what I needed. And still to this day, I generally, I need an adventure in this location. Here's the gist of the location. Boom, go. When I started building my own world, actually bigger scale, I started with, this is the biggest city-state. So I have a large map of the whole thing. I have individual maps of the different, sectors of the town. Stuff like that. I do tend to start with a set, build up, and then build out as needed. It makes it easier for me to move them from world to world. That particular city has been in 3 different versions of D20, and I believe 4 different campaign worlds from different publishers. So when I build it from the bottom up and out, it's easier to move it. So the rules don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So that is similar to how I used to homebrew my campaigns. It really was just like sometimes all I knew was that there was a festival on a certain day, and we would just build the personality of that city or the location of that festival in session and build out. And as new ideas came up, the interconnection between the different parts of the world would happen, like more or less on the fly. Param, I believe you're more of a campaign, like a published campaign setting guy. So how does this sound to you? How does it compare to how you GM?
Well, honestly, I may be a use a published campaign setting kind of guy for my games, but I often, when I'm developing my actual this is where we're going to get into some word soup. I often play in published campaign settings. I used to play a whole lot in Forgotten Realms. Now, obviously, I play a lot in Golarion. But when I'm designing my home-written campaigns, as in my series of adventures, not the worlds, I do the same thing you all are talking about. I'll pick a location, preferably a location that doesn't have a ton of information about it, and then I will start designing inside out. I'll pick the town or the city and then start designing what I need around it. And even though like the broader where things came from, who are my neighboring countries, some familiarities taking care of it for me, when I'm actually down in the dirt designing my own adventures or trying to fit content in, I go to that inside out technique.
It's interesting that you're taking like an established world and you're finding a gap basically that you can fill in, instead of saying like, this is the most exciting established thing and we're going to use the established information.
Mm-hmm. And that's really useful when players want to go to an established area, or I need to feature that area, or I'm running Pathfinder Society and I have absolutely no time to invent a whole bunch of stuff that I'm not allowed to anyway. But if I'm writing my own stories, I don't want my stories to clash with established stories, or for Paizo to publish something in like an adventure path I couldn't have seen coming that just completely counteracts everything my group's put together.
So then, Randall, when you are designing a world for a game like Pathfinder, which is as synonymous for its campaign setting as it is for its rule set, what is, one, your motivation, and what is the reaction from your players to doing a homebrewed campaign for a system that has its own campaign setting?
I think it's not a fair question in my case. The guys that I play with, we've been playing together since high school, so we're looking at over 20 years. We've moved from system to system, world to world. We've always created our own content, and we've always customized the ever-loving heck out of it. And so at one point we got sick of some of the changes that were being made to the world in print, and we rotated GMs every other week or every week, depending on mood or how fast we completed something, how long it took how long it took to write an adventure. We would have another GM run while I was writing. And so to avoid the collision of, well, when I ran this tavern last week, in our favorite tavern, Betsy was the barmaid. Why is, her sister running it now? We had some collisions like that early on. And so we started branching out, and we had some fun with Planescape, and we had a fan of Planescape and Spelljammer. So very early on, we just said, hey, you got your own world, I've got my own world. Let's just do it that way. And then from there, the overlaps were, okay, where do the teleport beacons work? Where do the gates overlap? How do we get from one to the other? That was our primary way of dealing with the existing print, and allowed us to go to and from the realms, Greyhawk, Dragonlance. So in my case, I can't really say how my players deal with print, although my current group, we spent 3 years playing Rise of the Runelords. Everyone loves Golarion. They enjoy the lore. They enjoy the world as I present it to them. They enjoy reading about it. So I don't know that it's a big deal, but we've been playing House Rule for so long that I don't really have a neutral answer to that.
Chat is giving some shout outs to Planescape, which I do feel like it's one of those settings that has a lot of love, but it hasn't been revisited since 2nd edition of Dungeons & Dragons, has it?
It may not, but one of the things that keeps Planescape alive is the BioWare RPG set in Planescape. So that was such a masterpiece of how to translate tabletop role-playing game concepts to a computer video game, that it's one of the most respected video games of all time. So you also you have this well-respected setting, and the supporters of that keeping it up, this ridiculously good game, and the fact that that game keeps getting re-released and updated throughout the years. It just recently got re-released for new computers and stuff from Beamdog, which some of our friends have worked on that port, so we have to disclaimer that. But so it stays in relevancy, even though it barely gets any official print.
Speaking of chat, Param.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. If people
We
want to join in the
film
conversation.
live every Wednesday in front of a Discord chat. If you join us on, sorry, not Discord. If you join us on Twitch during any of our live streams, you'll be able to chat with us. And throughout the episode, please ask your questions, and we will forward them on to our guests and ourselves and get you answers. That is at twitch.tv/NoDirection. We go live every Wednesday at 9 o'clock Eastern. Sometimes. We're often late.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Marlowe House is in chat. That's Andrew Marlowe. And if you had read the advertisement for this episode, it was supposed to be Andrew joining us as well. And unfortunately, because of technical difficulties, he was not able to attend. So I'm glad that he's still taking the time, hanging out and chat and participating with this episode, like contributing to this episode in some way.
Yeah, I know. I really was hoping to have Andrew on to talk about a lot of his topics that would really fit in here. If you notice that we're on our toes here, it's because a lot of the core crux of our episode kind of got its knees cut out from under us without Andrew joining us. But Andrew, we love you. Please be active in chat. And also, if you all haven't checked out Marlowe House, they do some good actual play streaming themselves. Go check them out on Twitch and follow them there. They play a whole vast number of systems, not just Pathfinder.
And while you're checking out Andrew's stuff, you can check out his blog, Burst of Insight, which lately has been, I think he's up to a 5-part of the series of Golarion without Pathfinder, which was going to be the counterpoint to this conversation that we're having. With Randall, we're looking at Pathfinder role-playing game applied to a different setting than the original setting. With Andrew, he's looking at all the other published games that are out there and saying, if you want this type of game, or if you like this about Golarion, here's a game that can help you with that.
I know.
But Randall, you said that your home game that you've done homebrew campaigns for has also jumped between systems. So what is it that motivates a change in system for your group?
It often depends on who's running or just the mood. And most of the jump in systems has just been the iterative jumps through the versions of the D20 system. But we started in AD&D 2nd. I believe we did 1 or 2 bits using the... I forget the name of the system, but they used it for both Firefly and Supernatural many years ago.
Cortex?
I honestly, I couldn't tell you. I didn't run that one, so I couldn't give you an answer.
I bet Andrew in chat is going to know the answer to that.
Probably. But yeah, so we took a stab at playing the Supernatural game itself, and then we took a stab at how we could use that, because it was a simpler system to GM, and my friend at the time had less time to prepare and less time to learn it was before he learned Pathfinder, so it was easier for him to just run that system.
And Justin Sluter in chat and now Andrew both confirm it is Cortex. That's the name of that system.
Yeah, and that ties into a big issue that I'm having to debate myself right now, because I have a very long-running campaign in Pathfinder that most of our viewers, and Ryan, you're familiar with, that I've started way before Pathfinder came out, and we are still playing it. And now we are seeing that Pathfinder 2 is on the horizon, and that campaign has bounced from... it started as 4th edition. It played some in Pathfinder Beta. There was a brief couple of weeks where we were trying out systems to see what we wanted to settle on, and it was running Savage Worlds. And then ultimately we switched back to Pathfinder, and that's where it stuck. But now Pathfinder 2 is on the horizon.
So, yeah, like, how long do you think before your Reign of Winter game is done?
My Reign of Winter game has maybe 3 more sessions. They have they're in the last book, in the last section, and they have basically 2 mini dungeons left before it's over. And so maybe a month, maybe a month and a half, and then they are also going to be needing to find something to do. We're going to have to make the decision of, like, are we going to start up something, another Pathfinder game, which seems unwise, because then we'd be committing to playing Pathfinder 1 for another 3 years, which is nothing wrong with that. But if we were wanting to try out Pathfinder 2, it's too early. We could try to do something that's, man, we are trying to figure out what we're doing.
All right, what is your gut instinct? What would you like to do if there was no opposition?
So I have to answer this question for 2 different groups that have 2 different considerations. One is a group that wants to keep running the same story, but wants to continue it into a new system. They want to eventually go to Pathfinder 2, but it's the meantime that we're trying to figure out. And I have another group that is the Reign of Winter group that has ending the campaign. Reign of Winter is ending. The story is going to be over. It's time to start up a new one. And in that one is probably the easiest to figure out. We're probably going to spend the break playing some other system. You floated the idea of doing some like Starfinder Society scenarios or Pathfinder Society scenarios, and that could be cool. I have a lot of interest in other systems besides Pathfinder. I know that's shock and blasphemy, but especially Mutants and Mastermind, which this wasn't meant to be a shout out, but they just have a discount bundle like Pathfinder had with a whole bunch of their books in PDF format for super steep discount, and that timing is apropos right now for me and my group. And I love Mutants and Masterminds, but I haven't got to play the new edition of it, and a couple of my players are newbies to role-playing game, and they've already started asking, like, well, what in the world is out there that isn't Dungeons & Dragons? And it might be a fun time to do a series of one-shots and let them experience what else role-playing games have to offer that isn't based off of a D20. Though Mutants and Masterminds is based off D20, so that doesn't solve that problem at all. But so basically, I have no idea. Any suggestions from you all?
Yes, here's my most out there suggestion. Start Strange Aeons.
Start Strange Aeons.
In first edition.
Okay.
At some point between now and August, switch to playtest.
Okay.
And then in August, switch to second edition and learn that system on the fly. And the reason I suggest doing it for Strange Aeons is because it is about Cthulhu. It's a Lovecraftian. And so the fact that the very spine of the world, like basically the science that runs your world, is changing on the fly, is on theme.
So just everything's insane, so the game should also be insane.
I mean, not should, but this is a chance to get away with being insane and to learn the new system in a thematic way.
But here's the kicker.
How else do you get to modify?
You said at some point switch to the playtest, and the playtest is patched, and we know a lot of it's changing, and not a lot of that. Some of my players very much disliked the playtest, and I don't want them to run away halfway through Strange Aeons.
True, and I've had my complaints about the playtest as well. That was just, I think, taking the theme to the most extreme level. You could just start with first edition, and then once second edition comes out, switch to second edition.
No, I like your theme, though. We could switch to 5th edition, then play in Fantasy Age, take a couple of weeks off and do it in Burning Wheel.
Yes, keep going. What else can you throw in the new Star Trek RPG?
Oh yeah, sure. Then shift it to Starfinder, make the whole thing sci-fi. And just it always was sci-fi and always will be sci-fi until right. There we go. This works. No, there's no way in heck I'm doing that. Randall, help us out. What do you have a suggestion for? How are we gonna save that group?
I'm Team 2.0, so I'm having fun running the playtest material.
The goal
right now
is 2.0 when 2.0 comes out, but we've got this 6-month gap.
6. I mean, hey, if they want to try other stuff, you can always want to run one of the short Starfinders. I don't know. How long would it take you to run the 3 module?
Oh, I don't know. And there's reasons I don't want to run that one. But I like I like your gumption. That keeps us on task. Are there any systems you don't like? I mean, is there any systems besides, our core systems that you like to play?
I honestly, I get to play a couple hours on Wednesdays, and even then, it's kind of spotty with us missing at least once a month. So we tend to stick to Pathfinder. We're actually going to be spinning up a Starfinder finally. So once a month it'll be Starfinder. The other 2 or 3 will be Pathfinder. Outside of that, I actually don't do a lot of role playing outside of that. If I do play games, it's going to be board games, miniatures, other entirely different things. I only have the one night a week because of the family, so.
I know, and that really is like a first world problem kind of situation for us. Like, I know I'm one of the most blessed in access to as much role playing game as I ever want to play at any given time, and I know even Ryan, you've had limited access to play groups lately, and for most of our listeners, they're more in your bucket, Randall. Like the concept of just getting the one group together regularly to play the one game you all love is hard. And then to be in a situation where you've got 3-4 different groups all being able to play a variety of game systems is sort of just not the reality for most people in the hobby.
No, but that is definitely a mecca for people like me. We've actually been talking about moving out of California, just cost of living and whatnot. And we had toyed with the idea of moving to Seattle because I knew I'd be able to find many groups and many options. But of course, cost of living there is not any better. So
yeah,
still looking.
It's just like going from the worst to the second worst in pricing.
Pretty much.
I feel for all of our Seattle friends. Your rents are ridiculous.
But you did mention board games there, Randall, and is that something that you'd be interested in, Param?
Oh, well, we already do a lot of board gaming, but I wouldn't mind inserting some board. Ooh.
Oh, I've got an idea for you, Param.
I think I don't know if you have the same idea. I'm curious what, Randall, your idea is.
So this is something I have that I collected many years ago and have yet to get rid of, and hopefully will never have to. And aside from that, I once collected D&D minis, the pre 3.5 era. I had double complete sets all the way through the 12 waves, and many hundreds of orcs and others for playing my board games because I had access to a air hockey table that was great for playing D&D and miniatures. After losing a job, I had to sell them all.
Oh dear.
And I have yet to collect miniatures since then because it still breaks my heart. But back to my idea. Did you ever play HeroScape?
HeroScape. Which one is HeroScape? Oh, the Hex mini.
Yes.
One of the Tom Tolis. I used to work for him at Fat Dragon Games. He was obsessed with that game.
It would be very easy to build a light RPG campaign of some sort using that. You can just have stages. It would be still be miniatures. It'll still be war game-ish, but because of the figures that it comes with, you can build a light RPG into it and just kind of spread that out over a couple of months.
And that becomes difficult because I have none of that game.
Right.
And it's out of print and has been for years.
Yes. But I assumed you had access to something similar.
Oh, yeah. I have access to a lot of games. The one that I was thinking of when you said board games and then campaign mode was Gloomhaven. That's the new shiny on the hill.
I suggest it was either a campaign-based board game or a legacy game.
And man, chat
Gloomhaven is the big one in the campaign side right now.
Chat is lighting up right now with like a bunch of suggestions for things we could play. I want to pull out there. Dungeon Novice is suggesting the Expanse RPG. I love the Expanse, but I have no idea what the RPG is going to be like. Let's see here. Dungeon Novice is recommending the Cypher system. Marlowe House is piling on with that one. Dungeon World from Justin P. Slutter. Super Dungeon from King of Rock. Lucas Vine is Ire of the Storm. That's one I've never heard of. Blades in the Dark, Chris Kimball is recommending. That is a ridiculously well-written RPG that is inspiring. I do recommend that anybody interested in RPGs at least pick up the free demo of that and read through it. It has some ways of thinking about role playing and rules for role playing that aren't just revolutionary. Marla House is recommending Gaslands and Clank. Those are not RPGs. Those are war games. Gaslands is super fun. We have a crew that is alpha dogging that at our local game store right now, so I can totally get in some games of that. Dread is being mentioned, as well as the Age system. Oh, expansions the Age system. Okay, cool. Oh yeah, because Green Ronin is putting that out. I didn't know it was going to be Age, but of course that makes sense. Age is great.
So, have you moved on from the idea of playing a legacy board game, or should I be weighing in with some options there?
A legacy board game would be cool. We're playing Betrayal Legacy right now, on and off again. We could definitely increase the up on that. What other legacy games are there out there besides Gloomhaven and Betrayal?
What is considered a legacy game?
All right, so a legacy board game is different from a campaign-based board game in that it is not replayable. So the first one was Risk Legacy. It's created by Rob Daviau. It's published by Hasbro, and it created a whole new concept in board games. Effectively, you are not playing a game of Risk. You are playing Risk over and over again, and it plays in an hour. So you play your game, you're finished, and then if certain requirements are met, there are meta game things you do in between the two sessions. So, for example, if at any point in your game you nuke a city, then instructs you to take that city's card, physically rip it to shreds, and never play with that card again. Take a black marker and draw over that city on the board. So every single time you play this game, every single time you play through the Legacy campaign, it is exclusive to your group. And there's things like when you found a new area, you get to take out a pen, you get to write on the board, you get to name the islands and whatever that you are discovering. And there are sealed envelopes that are in the box, and it tells you do not do this until certain requirements are met. Like, don't do this until one person has won the game multiple times. And usually it's a balancing factor, so now that person, it's established they have a handicap, and so they can't move forward. So Risk was the first one. Then Rob Daviau took the concept to Z-Man Games. They published Pandemic, and one of the first Pandemic spin-offs was Pandemic Legacy Season 1. The big difference there is that Pandemic is a cooperative game. And so now you are playing together, and the theme for Pandemic is that there's just terrible outbreaks of disease all over the world. You are a team of specialists, each with a specialist power, and you are trying to cure all the diseases in the world that keep spreading and outbreaking simultaneously throughout the world. And a single game of Pandemic, you're just trying to save the world effectively, like cure enough disease that it is no longer an extinction level threat. With Pandemic Legacy, it's now it starts with a fire, and then it's a slower brewing thing. And what's really interesting about Pandemic Legacy is that at one point I listened to someone just doing a review that was full spoilers, and I was like, maybe someday I'll play it. Whatever, what could possibly be spoilers for a board game? And then when I heard some of the spoilers, it was like, wow, I can't play that game now that I know this. Like, there are plot twists in this board game, and in ways that I never conceived a board game would be able to pull off that kind of storytelling. And now Pandemic Legacy Season 2 has come out, which is supposed to still be a very good game, but unfortunately is not selling well, so you could probably get it for fairly cheap. And the entire concept of legacies might be dying out because it was like, it hit really big. Rob Daviau seems to be the only person that knows how to design one, and he designed a legacy game that kind of was flat on the landing. I forget the name of it, but it's a pirating game that just apparently just does not satisfy the same itch as the other legacy games. But Pandemic Legacy Season 1 and 2, Risk Legacy, and Betrayal at House on the Hill Legacy are all supposed to be quality games that can take you months or years to complete with the same group.
Yeah, I don't want to mention too much about Betrayal Legacy because it's like that. There's like things that happen in it that would be spoilers and kind of ruin some of the fun. But one of the things I do want to say and I don't want you to go looking for it just because I told you this, but at some points in time in the game, there is stuff hidden in that board game in its box that you have to go hunting for during the play of the game. And the second that stuff started happening, we were just like awed. It was like, this fits in with this creepy haunted house supernatural mystery vibe, and like, even we can't even trust the box.
Oh, apparently there's a Machikori legacy. I don't know much about. Oh no, it's only coming out this year. That's why I don't know anything about it. That's something to look out for. I'm just looking up the name of that game that I did not remember the name of.
And there's a curse, but when it comes to board games, there's like a known curse of the board game, where the RPG group plays too many board games and then is bitten by the lycanthropy and becomes the Ware board game group and no longer the RPG group.
See, we had issues in my early 20s. We played D&D 4-5 nights a week for about 6 months and burnout, and started playing board games. And Hero Quest was still on the shelves back then.
Oh wow!
So I picked up Hero Quest, all the expansions, and we started burning through that. And after about a week or two of my friend walking into a room, trying to stand on the table, trying to pull the cupboard down on the goblin enemy, and me telling him no, the rules don't allow for that, he finally just flipped over the table and said, roll up a new character. So that's kind of how my group is. We take our break, we play our board games, and then right back into the RPGs.
Seafall, by the way, is the name of the game that I was looking for. That's the legacy game that you might want to avoid.
Another one I would recommend avoiding is the Dark Souls board game. It's got some legacy modes built into it, and it's just not good, and I really wish it was, because I spent a fortune on it. It's just not a great game. Now, the flip side, the miniatures are amazing and relatively cheap to buy them because of the bulk you get from buying it in board game form. So I still recommend the purchase of the box if you want a whole bunch of Dark Souls inspired miniatures that look amazing, but do not play the game. I've played it like 6 or 7 times with several different groups, and no group has enjoyed that experience.
Do you have access to Runebound?
Miniatures? Oh, sorry, Randall. I'll just get to Justin Sluder's comment in chat. He bought Magic the Gathering Arena of the Planewalkers. He says for $10. Oh, because he got it at the Toys R Us closeout sale. Yeah, I've heard good things about that, and apparently Heroescape hexes and miniatures are compatible with the Magic the Gathering Arena of the Planewalkers miniatures. Sorry, Randall, you were saying?
Oh, I was just... have you seen or do you have access to Runebound?
No, I do not. I do not.
I think I still have the 4 box sets that are there. It's ostensibly a board game, but it has some RPG card game, mobile game-ish mechanics. And my friends and I were never able to complete a session in just one night, usually taking 2 or 3, because we tend to like to level up and try to hit all the spots. So that's something that, you know, might be worth looking into if you have access to it.
I will look into that one. But that one's another one that's out of print.
I think it is, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I really love these awesome recommendations, but I have to be able to buy them.
I haven't bought games in the last 10 years, sorry.
This is an idea that the timing's not great, but the adventure card game, the Pathfinder adventure card game, there are several campaigns of it that are out, including several that might be campaigns you're never going to roleplay through, like Mummy's Mask. Or I know Wrath of the Righteous is a campaign that you started and abandoned. So you might recognize some things if you played it as a card game campaign, and you'll actually get further into it, and you'll get, you know, some resolution to some of the plots. The reason I say it's not a great time is because it too is leading to not a second edition, but like a reboot coming up. And it does require a fair amount of buy-in. So if you're willing to spend, I don't know, a couple of $100 to get the entire Wrath of the Righteous adventure, and possibly some character options, and that'll only be good for those 6 months, and then maybe revisit it from time to time.
Well, that's also an option. Well, we do know that the old cards are going to be still playable in the new revised version of the game, so they're not completely worthless. That was a very important message that the crew at PaizoCon was putting forward, and I can understand the sentiment, because I also do not want to end up with piles and piles and hundreds of dollars of worthless cardboard. I'm looking at you, Magic the Gathering.
My friend was a big Magic the Gathering player, and what he did is he took all his decks and he made shelves on his shelves. So he has a bookshelf where the back row will be novels sitting on top of his decks of Magic the Gathering that he will never play again. And then he has room in front of those to put another row of novels. and you could see enough of the spine of both of them to know what the books are. So basically a paperweight.
Oh, wonderful. Chris Kimball, one thing that happened with Magic the Gathering is that the rules got so complicated with the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of cards out there that it is the game that invented the idea of the season play, where only the current few season releases of the card game are legal to be used in tournaments, or at least most of the tournaments that are hosted in the world. There are still tournaments technically where you can play any card ever, but most of the time it's just the last few expansions that are legal, and you're not allowed to play older cards than that. And that means that as you play Magic the Gathering, your cards become worthless as you continue to play Magic the Gathering. So right now, even though I have probably 10,000 plus Magic the Gathering cards and boxes around, if I wanted to go to my local store on Friday and play some games, I would not be allowed to use 90% of them.
Going back to Pathfinder, have you considered running something like Dragon's Demand? One of the maxi modules that they put out. I think 6 months is about the time it'll take you.
That's good.
It's got a lot of cool support. It's a well-reviewed module. I've got a weird fascination with Dragon's Demand. I've never played it, and yet it's one of my gold campaigns to run.
That's a good idea.
I assume you even have the module and probably all of the
I have every piece of official printed material. So yes, I have that one.
Yes. Auxiliary? What is the word I'm looking for?
I think ancillary is what you were trying to find.
Ancillary. Thank you. All the ancillary pieces.
Oh, yes. I do have Dragon's Demand, and I've wanted to play that and read it. There's a history with me in Dragon's Demand, actually, and not a very proud one. And also, that is the starting set for the new revised edition of the card game. It's Dragon's Demand.
Oh, that's right. You know what? I think we're going to have a card game episode.
We really are. Okay. Ooh, Dan, expect an email.
Suggest the Harrowing.
Oh, I love the Harrowing.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I've got the cool Harrow set, and I've got all sorts of accoutrements for that.
I have a playlist.
It's a 32-page module, right? Or is it 64 pages?
I think it's a 32-pager.
From what I understand, it's one of the more dense 32-page modules.
One of the most beloved ones.
There we go. How many pages you got there, Randall?
I have 32.
Yes. It does not have a spine.
And sorry, Randall, I think I was talking over for you for a second there.
Oh, I just, when I actually moved back to California years ago, I joined a group through a friend, and it was a round robin group, and one of the host really wanted to play a harrower in the harrowing, and it came my time to run as GM. And so I ran that module, and I loved it. Loved every minute of it. And that is actually the module that took me from being a full-time homebrewer to a Galarian GM.
Wow.
Awesome.
So I had a much more gradual journey. I was playing a little bit of Pathfinder Society here and there. And then eventually it was just, I felt like to get more into Pathfinder and to interact with more parts of the community, I eventually had to just embrace the fact that Galarian was the default for most people, and so I tagged along. I wasn't engrossed in the setting. I was engrossed in the community that was engrossed in the setting.
And originally, one of the reasons you brought me on the podcast was to be the Galarian guy.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Then you became more of a Galarian guy than I was.
I originally brought you on the podcast because of Param spell cards, and then I kept you around because we had good chemistry and I enjoyed talking to you. But yeah, I can see myself saying that your role was the Galarian guy, but your role was always to just be Param.
Oh, I'm really good at being somebody that doesn't exist.
Jefferson J. Thacker, but be known as Param.
Oh man, I was just telling Alex this. There's an episode of you've all have called me Param so much time, and almost all the people I deal with professionally and when I go to conventions, nobody knows who Jefferson is except for Eric Mona. Much respect to that man for remembering my actual name. and exclusively using it. But there's an episode of Batman Beyond, one of the early ones, where Bruce Wayne is like mentally attacked and somebody's trying to gaslight Bruce Wayne, and at the end of it, Terry, who is Batman Beyond, asks him, well, how did you know it wasn't real, that you weren't going nuts? And he said, the voice in my head kept calling me Bruce, and that's not what I call myself.
Yeah, Dungeon Novices also saying the quote, I call myself by the other name.
But roundabout, since you brought up Golarion and Pathfinder, at the end of Pathfinder 1, and most assuredly, unless we get some crazy announcement, probably going forward in Pathfinder 2, Golarion is marrying the rule system. And I know by the look of that straight face, Ryan, it is not something you're happy with. Now, I don't want to go back and dredge that up, but I notice that this is something that is almost unique to D&D bred games, where either you have a game system that is married to a setting, or you have a generic rule system that has no setting at all, like GURPS or Fudge or something like that. Though occasionally with Fudge, it's a weird thing where they keep publishing custom versions of Fudge that do have settings. But with the D&D, we're used to this rules and our own settings, or this setting or that setting, or 4 or 5 different official settings. And that's just, when you go exploring the greater world of role-playing out there, almost, if you go up to any other role-playing game, it's a rules that are matched with a setting. And I'm wondering, have we just been spoiled that this is an option? Like that you can just wedge off the world from the rule set?
Well, I think it's a combination of history. That's just how the game always was. And the fact that non-fantasy role-playing games go a different route is just how offshoots of Dungeons & Dragons, the original role-playing game, just mutated the concept of what a role-playing game could be. But also marketing, like if you can sell a generic book and then you can entirely the setting, and it's like that's a major selling point. You can easily title that book, you can easily write your press release for what that book is. This is a campaign setting, and then write it as a world. So like there is marketing reasons to keep it separate as well. Yeah, I'm not sure why you would say that it's being spoiled to have them separate. What are you thinking with that choice of words?
Oh, it's just like, this is a privilege of being of rules that have kept themselves separate while still being non-generic. This is still a fantasy rule system. The magic system of D&D and Pathfinder is Vancian, and there are like third-party options that have been added to it over the years. But when you talk about how magic works, this is spells have spell slots, and summon monster is a spell that lasts this many rounds, and wands cast things, and scrolls are one-use spells. And there's this whole concept of extra planar structure. There is a lot of things that would be considered setting material that are married to the generic bones of D&D that you have to account for when you are making a Pathfinder compatible setting or a D&D compatible setting, that you do not have to account for when you're working with a more generic rule set that is designed to be generic from the base up. So the fact that we have this very flavorful rule set that we're able to add our own setting to and is designed to support that is unique.
So I would say that's a strength of the universality of fantasy as a genre. For example, Randall, name me 5 fantasy races.
Well, you get your standard orc, elf, dwarf, gnome, halfling.
Perfect. Name me 5 science fiction races.
You got me.
Because you have to go brand specific. You have to say Klingons. You have to say Huts.
Fair enough.
So that's the thing. You can just say it's a fantasy setting, and immediately people are like, "All right, does that mean tall elves or small elves?" But they know they're going to be elves. Whereas once you get into a fantasy setting, there's probably a human, and then there's also probably somebody with pointy ears, and maybe androids. Like that's as universal as sci-fi settings, sci-fi races go. And then beyond that, it's you've got to get setting specific races, and then you might as well get setting specific setting.
Mm-hmm.
Not even might as well. You have to establish, yes, this is sci-fi, but what does that mean? What is space travel? What is all the rules of the setting? And it starts to get flavored as it gets created. Whereas fantasy, you've got such a the vanilla fantasy is such a flavorful vanilla. It's a French vanilla.
Well, I say it's not even vanilla at all. We have just typecast ourselves into a particular view of what we think fantasy is, that it's no longer a generic genre. Like the Stormlight Archives is a fantasy novel. You would definitely be completely unable to name the races in that just by the assumption that it's fantasy. I mean, that's where grass are crustacean crabs that retreats into shells, and there's storms that wipe off cities unless they have some sort of super walls. And
that old trope.
What
no,
trope?
Those aren't tropes.
Okay,
those
and
are
like
very creative, very specific. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's a ridiculously amazing fantasy novel that is definitely fantasy. It is not sci-fi. This is a fantasy world with magic and swords and that sort of thing. But you would never be able to just guess what's around the corner in that world because that you've read Tolkien before. Whereas D&D is just literally Tolkien with some Conan slapped on of it and a few other sources and the serial numbers filed off, but still very much, we call it generic fantasy because it's just done to death, but it's still a very specific flavor of storytelling.
So King of Rock in chat is also saying it's a lot based on folklore. And so even Lord of the Rings takes a lot of things from Earth legends. There we go. Yeah, he's adding that Tolkien is just Irish and North mythology. And like anytime I'm saying like things like generic or vanilla, those aren't disparaging terms. I love vanilla fantasy, but it's the idea that you can get such a whipped vanilla that it's like there is just so much that it's still like a shared understanding of, if you say fantasy and you don't qualify it, because you can get super creative with fantasy, you can get super detailed and super different from the vanilla fantasy. But if you just say fantasy, a room full of people will come at it with like at very least 50% similar idea of what you're talking about until you get more specific.
Yeah, and that is definitely the reality of the situation versus the textbook definition of a situation.
But it's also the reason that a fantasy role-playing game can have no setting, because the setting is super populated with things that fit in so many different settings.
Right. I say one of the reasons, with the exception, I would say, of the Divine Planar and Magic system, that seems to be the odd duck out with the D&D-esque inspired ones, because if you start reading fantasy or seeing other fantasy games or seeing fantasy video games or any other thing that is still very much what we would consider classic fantasy, the Vancian spell casting and the planar structure of the multiverse is just wahoo compared to what we're doing right now.
That and the how healing works and how resurrection, how common it is. Like, it's very rare that you will see fiction that is as loose with death. You know what? It's superheroes. Superheroes is the only comparison, and superheroes has a similar reason. Superheroes keeps bringing the characters back because they want to retain copyrights and they want to keep being able to publish those stories and sell those action figures. We want to keep those characters alive for us. Those are the characters that we are not done publishing the stories of. We want some out. We want some way to clone or, you know, whatever, all of the comic tropes for bringing characters back from the death.
And we have lost the trail.
We have. And unfortunately, Randall, I feel like we've kind of been taking you for granted for the last half hour or so. We've gone over our hour, which is what we asked of you. And I know you've got your coming over. Is now a good time for you to plug a couple of things and then wrap up?
Yeah, I'm good. I've got a good 20 or so to go.
Okay. Well, Cryptwalker did point out that we alluded to your second blog, but never actually named it or went into it. So why don't you tell us about the blog you do, other than Groundbreaking, for the network?
Yeah, so when I first started doing Groundbreaking, it was every other week. And then I just realized that we needed to add some more Starfinder content. So I decided to put together something like Groundbreaking for Starfinder. We called it Terraforming because, well, it makes sense. Originally, it started out as creating an organization and how it terraformed planets, moons, etc. for whatever. Each individual location was supposed to be a separate set piece that could be thrown together as a whole. I wanted everything to be self-contained. But as I started messing with the idea of the blog itself, it just kind of evolved. So each week is kind of whatever tickles my fancy for the week. Due to illness last week, I was super, super late on yesterday's piece. And so I just pulled chat, and someone, was Harold Nichols mentioned Supernova. And as I was Googling, Supernova didn't exactly give me something I wanted. And so I modified the concept. And oddly enough, we were talking about Sigil earlier, and I feel like for whatever reason, taking Sigil into Starfinder was a good idea. And so that's just kind of how and what terraforming is. Each piece is a unique, different take on a location or set of locations that can be used as standalone or possibly mixed in for stuff. So,
and is that because we were talking about how you know what? No, I've lost the question. I'm sorry.
Well, I mentioned Sigil. I meant to say Planescape.
Oh, okay.
Because
but also, like, so you jump around a lot with the topics of your blogs, but that doesn't reflect how you design your campaign, right? That is more to be entertaining and to cover more ground.
Yes, correct. When I build up and when I'm running games, there's a thread that goes, and we just, I create as I move along. But it partially because I alternate weeks with groundbreaking and terraforming. If I were doing it week to week, it would be more continuous. But because continuous, I guess, but more continuity, that's the word I was looking for. Mm-hmm. But because I do it every other week and I'm changing systems and, going from fantasy to sci-fi every week, I sometimes lose my train of thought. And so when I come back to it, usually I don't really want to continue that. That one's done. I want to come up with something new and different that ties in with groundbreaking or is something completely different with terraforming.
And what game are you going to play in like 20 minutes?
Actually, because I was doing this, I didn't have time to prep. We were going to do a session 0 for Starfinder.
Ooh.
Oh, wow. Your very first?
No, we've attempted twice, and I'm playing a play-by-post that's only marginally into the beginnings of it. But I ran the last... Actually, no, I didn't run. I think I ran a partial attempt at Starfinder, and our GM, who's going to be running this one, he attempted a partial before. But so we're just going to kind of reset, build new characters, and see what happens.
Now, are you going to be playing in your terraforming universe, or are you going to be playing one of the APs or modules?
He picked up... I don't think it was Dead Sons. I don't remember which one he picked up, but he picked up one of the print modules. So we will be running print.
Ooh.
But I'm really trying really hard to let him, or convince him to let me run my homebrew material, my custom. It's like, hey, I had something in print. Can I play it?
It's a dangerous game to play.
It is.
And when you're playing Starfinder, and suppose you were able to do it in your... This is one of those systems where the setting and the rules are coupled together. So how do you uproot the campaign setting and, plant your campaign setting in its place?
Well, it's Starfinder. You're in space. There are things long time ago, far, far away. I've written a small piece in my other blog, or my personal blog that I did before No Direction, about running a Stargate Universe style campaign. So it's not that difficult if you're jumping around. Alex has his own system for every man. Mm-hmm. It's not too terribly difficult, but I'm also a little fast and loose with the rules sometimes. So yeah.
Blasphemy.
Hey, you run without prep. You're fast and loose. I don't even need to hear that from you.
I do run without prep. I'm not that fast and loose with the rules, though. I think I'm just comfortable with them.
Yeah, Ryan is actually super stickler for the rules. Like, he even insists that I make animal companions go on different initiatives. If you listen to Adventurous, you'll find that out.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh, yeah, and I called Parabouta as the GM on closing a door that he did not have enough actions to close. All right, well, Rendell, we'll jump off here. We'll get to the news. So thank you for joining us. Sorry it wasn't the conversation that we said it was going to be, but I hope you feel that you got to say your piece.
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
having me.
And when can people find your blogs on the network?
So every Tuesday, usually in the morning time for Pacific Coast, alternating weeks, terraforming and groundbreaking.
Excellent. All right. Thanks a lot, Randall.
Yep. Thank you.
And we'll be back. I'm confused.
Were you going to kick Randall out, or?
Oh, Randall, hang out. That's all you have to do. Transitioning.
Let me figure out how.
Hitting the transition button. We'll be back. I just got to make the thingies.
You got to reformat the windows, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah, we're not used to Discord like we're used to Skype, even if Discord is the superior. Can they hear me right now?
Yeah, they can hear us. Hey y'all.
Okay.
I'm just putting I'm putting everybody in their new windows because Discord is fun. It's better than Skype, we promise.
It is. We're just getting used to it.
Oh goodness, it's doing things.
Oh, what kind of things?
Boom. And oh goodness. No. Okay, I will fix it. Just give me a second.
Okay. Can you? All right.
I have to. So what happened is when it turned to only 2 of us in the call, it doesn't want to show my window next to yours.
Okay.
So I'm having to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I am having to turn that off and add myself as a webcam. Add existing webcam. Okay. Oh goodness, did that not work? That didn't work.
You tell me.
It didn't work. All right.
I know I should be running, interference. And
Yeah,
damage
talk with chat.
control
Talk with
here.
chat and do things.
All right, so chat, at one point, Randall said he was on Team 2.0. 2.0 is the name of a local pro wrestling tag team, and their catchphrase is Feel the Flow with 2.0, or Feel the Flow of 2.0. And so now every time I think of second edition, thanks to Randall in that offhand combat, I'm just going to think Feel the Flow. And they both signed NXT and WWE development contracts recently, so good for 2.0. That's Shane Matthews and Jagged. They're probably not going to be wrestling under those names, but since pro wrestling has leaked a lot into the network in the last couple of months, I blame Luis and myself. We'll just pay attention for a couple of cruiserweight guys from Montreal and see. You can ask me if it's like, hey, is that 2.0? I've been dying for those guys to make their debut. Just give people a preview of what we're going to be talking about potentially, since
and it's fixed.
We haven't done a banter episode in a while.
Mhm.
There's some fun news bits that we're going to be talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I guess one's not such a fun news bit, but we'll talk about it at least briefly. And then we've got 2 or 3 topics that we can be talking about. One of them I definitely want to at least go into a little bit is that I've joined a Curse of the Crimson Thrones campaign. And so that just feels like something that's going to be coming up fairly often. Oh, Dungeon Novices like more Canadian wrestlers? Well then, since people have responded, since there was a response about wrestlers, yes, actually, Montreal was like a hotbed for Canadian wrestlers for a while. Now, the most famous Montreal wrestler is Jacques Rougeau, who wrestled as the Mountie for a while, and then just wrestled as Jacques Rougeau and the Fabulous Rougeau brothers before that. But the thing is that he kind of left a bad taste in WWE management's mouth for a long time, and so the fact that he was so famous and influential in Montreal was a detriment to other Montreal wrestlers. They didn't want to work with Rougeau, and Rougeau was kind of the guy selling himself as, if you want to become a WWE wrestler, I used to be a WWE wrestler. I beat Bret Hart for the Intercontinental title. And so then it's like, oh, this guy was Rougeau trained. Yeah, we don't want anything to do with that guy. But then Rougeau kind of got a reputation among the local wrestlers as somebody who was overselling himself and also kind of using that position abusively. He, like, for example, Kevin Owens, when he was wrestling as Kevin Steen, Kevin Owens is now former Universal Champion for the WWE, which is one of the world titles. He trained with Rougeau, and then as he was catching on, Rougeau was trying to get him as like an 18-year-old kid to sign an exclusive contract, giving him 20% of everything he makes from now on as a wrestler. And when when Kevin Owens was saying, like, I don't think I should be doing that, Rougeau was like, then you'll never wrestle for the WWE. And so that was kind of the beginning of the end for anyone taking Jacques Rougeau seriously. And now that Montreal is out from under the Mounties' shadow, suddenly people are realizing, oh, there was this weird underground thing going on in Montreal, and there's a lot of wrestlers here that should be on television. So Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are both full-time WWE guys. They're both off on injury right now, but they were definitely, upper card roster guys. And there's Vanessa Craven was just Mae Young Classic, although it sucks. She injured herself almost immediately after being on TV to the largest audience possible. She injured herself not wrestling, just doing, I think she was skiing or something. But she can now, not only can she not take advantage of all the exposure that she just got, but she also can't do her day job as a personal trainer. So she went from like the highest high in her career to the lowest low. And yeah, that just sucks for her. There's nothing really, there's no, eventually I have a feeling there's going to be a positive end to that story, but for now she's just in a bad place. But then 2.0 is also on TV. Beef Wellington was my guy. He was one of the that I really was attached to, and he retired right before Montreal was hitting it big. So he is at least on a WWE produced DVD being interviewed about Kevin Owens. So that's pretty cool. Hey, Bastille just showed up and is probably wondering where the video is and why we're talking about wrestling.
Well, the video's back.
Oh, the video's back. Then why am I still talking?
Because you were in the flow, man. And I
feel the flow.
Yeah.
Of 2.0. Where were we?
We were news.
All right, in the Pathfinder News segment, we talk about the latest happenings from Paizo for the Pathfinder role-playing game, or from other people. You know, things that are going on, such as licensees. We got a cool announcement today.
Mm-hmm.
The Dogmite license. Actually, I guess we got this announcement a couple of weeks ago. Dogmite is a producer of fancy wooden gaming accessories.
Mm-hmm.
And full disclosure, my association with Bannerless Builds, we do have a wooden division, so I'm technically in competition with Dogmite, but you're going to see, as I talk about this, that there is no bias here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Dogmite, a couple of weeks ago, announced that they got the Pathfinder license. They almost immediately revealed, or no, with the announcement, they revealed some of their wooden accessories would have the Pathfinder logo on them, and you can order them immediately. And it was just kind of like an etched thing, so it was a very simple execute piece, but it was clearly, we've got the license and we're going to be using that license right away. But today we got some real bread and butter of what this license potential is. They took Wayne Reynolds' Red Dragon art from the core rulebook, or the first edition core rulebook cover, and they have etched it onto a GM screen.
Mm-hmm.
That is absolutely fantastic, and I, before the end of the year, will own one, which is what I was getting at with not being biased. This is absolutely fantastic. It does have the Pathfinder logo on it, but the main thrust of this is this dragon, which looks gorgeous. It is in the setting of the core rulebook. It feels like picture the core rulebook cover. Now, if you were to just pan slightly to the right so that Valeros and Miri, no, not a Miri, Seoni.
Wait, I think it's the cover of the beginner box.
Oh no, you're right. It is the cover of the beginner box. I take back everything I said about the cover of the core rulebook. It is the cover of the beginner box.
I'm pulling it up on screen for our viewers.
Yes. So if you take Mauricio and Ezrin out of it, and you just focus on the dragon, his lair, his horde, and the dragon himself, it is absolutely gorgeous. And if you're looking at the picture now, you'll see those tabs on the top. Those are initiative markers. Those are an add-on that you can get from Dogmite, which,
mm-hmm.
again, when I get this, I plan on getting.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's Black Fang. That's right. This dragon even has a name.
Mm-hmm. And a miniature. You can get his... It was one of the first case incentives for the Pathfinder
Not only
miniatures.
one of it was the first.
Yeah, yeah. And it was so tiny. He's so tiny. I love him to death, but he's big.
He looks mighty on the box, but it's still the beginner box. It's a first-level adventure.
Yeah, but he's a huge dragon. But he doesn't look like he's a huge dragon. He looks like he's a large dragon, pretending to be a monster hunter dragon.
So, Param, I see you've got the product image. Can you go to dogmite.com/Pathfinder?
Yeah,
I just want you to... Sure. I want you to scroll down a little bit to see the accessories you can have, because you can customize the back of your GM screen with shelves, white erase boards, a dice tower, lighting. There's a lot you can do with the Dogmite accessories.
Okay, I'm transitioning back. There we go. It's loading real slow. Their site is being hammered right now.
I wonder if everyone in chat right now is going to buy themselves a $200 GM screen.
Oh man, I mean, I just booked hotels for Gen Con, and I'm looking at getting flights to PaizoCon right now. I'm not buying a $200 game screen yet, but man, this is like
there's no
high up on my list.
License, so you will have time to save up. What's cool though is that normally Dogmite is purchase to order, or it's made to order rather. They have some of this in stock. So obviously when they were designing it, I guess they were just kind of churning a few of them out because they were confident this is not stock they're going to be sitting on for a long time. It's customizable. There's some design options you can go through, different wood grains. Excuse me. They do quality product. Even as their competition.
It looks like you get 6 initiative trackers by default with the default purchase, and more are extra. As I'm scrolling through the how to order it. So for $165, you get the screen itself in the basic wood, the natural ash wood, and it looks like there's other options at that same price range. A lot of options. So a lot of different colors at that same price range. And 6 initiative trackers come with that. But you can have, but those are the Plexi ones. And well, I would just basically be rereading their whole sales page. But yeah, you get 6 by default, which wouldn't be enough for me anyway. It's $20 to get another 6. It's for a total of 12. Yeah, I would need on average 8. That's usually how many I use of my initiative trackers, which you can download for free at nodirectionpodcast.com. You can download my initiative flags and print them out yourself. Anyway, Ryan, you still there? Ryan? Ryan! No! We lost Ryan! I'm going to try and get him back.
Aram, you back?
Have I brought you back from the dead, Ryan?
Did you bring me back from the dead? I thought that you died.
I died, but I've had the stream, so.
Okay.
This is my reality. You are merely a guest here.
Oh, creepy. Param, if I were to hazard a guess, I would say that Dogmite's next release will be a Starfinder GM screen.
That makes sense, considering they also did the Starfinder dice bin thingy.
Yeah, it's so similar to what I was describing, the Pathfinder logo on it. The Starfinder logo is also on some of their accessories, but they want at least one meaty Starfinder option, I'm sure, before they start expanding to other options.
Yep. Oh man, this is horrible for me, Ryan. This is horrible. I've got. I could get this game screen, and it's amazing, and I do want it, but I have other game screens that are equally desired and awesome.
Products? Purchases? Sorry, I was waiting for a noun.
No, it's just... It would seem very... I really want to buy this, but it seems silly to buy this for me in particular. Because I also have those castle screens. That's
true. You've already got a really cool jam screen.
Yeah. And I also am making one and been making my own GM screens with this stuff here. This stuff is the best stuff. It's my favorite new crafting material. It's chipboard. It is graphics medium chipboard, and you can make GM screens out of this. You can make terrain tiles out of this. You can make buildings out of this stuff. It's just so great. I like it better in foam core.
Would you like to hear about something free?
Free? I like free.
All right. Free RPG Day modules have been announced.
Yay.
We'll talk briefly about the Starfinder one. That would be Skitter Crash, written by a friend of the show, Jason Keeley.
Yep. And cast member.
Yes, cast member. That's what we're calling non-network members who are contributing creatively.
Yeah.
Yes, it's available June 15th, which is free RPG Day, but you can get the PDF for free on the Paizo site as of July 1st.
Yep. It is a sequel to Skater Shot.
That's right. Third level this time, I believe I saw.
Skater Shot was second level, so that makes sense.
16-page softcover adventure. Here's what's interesting to me, at least. Actually, I think just based on the chatter about this is the more interesting option. The Pathfinder free RPG module is Weeby Heroes.
No. Weeby Goblin Heroes ?
No, just Weeby Heroes ?
Oh. Weird.
And it is continuing the story that's kind of been going on in the path, just in the campaign setting for a while, that it's like, hey, there's some good goblins out there. And so that's why we were getting a cast of new goblins for this. It is not the familiar goblins from the Weeby Goblin series, who, are all heroes in our heart, but they're clearly evil creatures that just do, terrible things to the world at large. No, these are new heroic goblins. We don't know a whole lot about them, other than that there's 4 of them, which I'll talk about in a second. And they're members of the Crooked Toes Settlement, Crooked Toes Tribe. Here's the other strange thing about this adventure, though. It is a Pathfinder playtest adventure.
That's so weird.
It is. Yes, it is not a second edition adventure, because second edition won't be out for another month and a half after this book is released. And although in the past there has been some, like, you get the first preview of a new system with the free RPG Day release, this is not that. This is clearly marked as the playtest adventure. The thing is that that's not clear as to exactly what that means.
I know, right?
There were 6 erratas and updates to the Pathfinder playtest system. We don't know exactly which ones were used for the writing of this module.
And is the writing of this module done?
The running of it. Say it again?
Is the writing of this module done? Like, it's far enough out that this still technically could not be at print yet.
June 1st. That would be cutting it pretty close.
Okay, it would have to be going to print soon, but no. It could be all the way to April, and they would still be okay on this one.
No, not for June 15th. You need 3 solid months of printing. Oh, wait a second. Luis just showed up. Wonderful timing, Luis. Luis says, yes, it is. So, Luis, this is going to be used with all of the updates? Oh, no, it's already in print. He says they have their printer proofs already. Sorry, I misunderstood which question you were answering.
Yes,
all right, Luis.
Okay. So it is
done. So it is officially done. It is done using what version of the playtest rules, Luis? I checked, and there is no answer in the message board related to this product, which surprised me. I figured that would be the first thing that would be clarified. Because saying it is a Pathfinder playtest adventure, it's saying that like that is self-explanatory, and this is only the second Pathfinder playtest adventure. Or I guess, no, the PFS ones came out as well. But this is the only one that's going to be coming out after the playtest is done. Oh, even Luis says he's not sure, he didn't develop it, but give him a bit. All right.
Yeah.
Roving reporter.
I would really hope that it is, like, and I know this is counterintuitive, I really hope it's the 1.6, the final update that it assumes, because that'll be the one that is the closest to what is going to be Pathfinder 2 when it's released, based on all the content and releases we've seen. And it is the one that has fixed the vast majority of the bigger, more common complaints. Like, it's the one that got rid of Resonance got super downsized, and the one that at least patched up some of the magic system and fixed a lot of the big problems with the game. And I know that
I agree with most of what you said, except that 1.6 is going to be the closest to second edition. Technically true, but from everything we heard from Jason Bullman last week and from what's been coming out about second edition, it still won't be that close to second edition.
No, it won't be. I just said closest, because otherwise they're going all the way to...
While still very far.
Because I think it would be damaging to second edition, and like for to put out another promotional product that told you to go back to that first edition rulebook that you can get off the shelf. Because, man, running this thing's going to be weird too. Like let's say
much weird.
There's so much weird. let's say I'm going to run it. Like, let's say it's free RPG day, and there's a conceivable future, like a very conceivable future, where I'm going to be expected as a venture officer to get some demo games of this together for free RPG day at my local stores and run it. What do I tell my GMs? Go download the book and then the errata. Or I'm going to actually tell them something I shouldn't tell them officially. Go get that PDF that fan produced that has all the patches already applied to it. Because that thing is glorious if you're going to be doing any playing with the playtest book. Learn that, then play this adventure, and then forget all of that because next month 2.0 comes out.
Wow. Luis says it looks like it's the 1.0 version. Does not have the update.
That is an interesting decision.
So I'm going to speculate on a few things, Param. Luis, you can respond or not. So some people have said, like, why isn't it a sequel to We Be Super Goblins, which ended on a cliffhanger? And I think the fractured nature of the rules set at this point that we've been talking about a lot this episode is the reason not to do that sequel. Like, you can do the full series of We Be Goblins 1 through 5 in first edition and then go to second edition to continue the story pretty fluidly. If it was 1 through 5 as first edition, then a key part of that plot line that they've been harvesting for most of a decade now is using the playtest system, and then potentially a part 6 would be in second edition. That's a little more fractured. That's a little more problematic. So they still wanted to do some goblins, and especially they wanted to take this opportunity. Sorry, this is all speculation. I shouldn't say they wanted to. So potentially they were introducing these new goblin characters in there so that they didn't mess up the continuity of the first storyline, and they still get goblins out there where they're popular. Potentially the reason Goblins isn't in the title is also so that it's not confused as part 6 of that series, but just a stopover that's similar, in a similar vein to that one storyline, but not a part of that story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is assuming that the ending of this adventure isn't Rock's Fall, everyone dies.
It could be, but these are the heroes. How depressing would it be that we finally get some goblin hero characters and we only get them for 16 pages before, no matter what, they're gone.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a terrible end to an adventure, but just saying.
All right. Little thing that sticks in my craw here is that there's still only 4 goblins. Can't we get 6? Like, even if the main story assumes 4 of them and 2 of them are also their cousins that kind of hang out with them sometimes, just let me have a 6-player table without some confusion about how many Poogs there are or whatever.
It's always Poog, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's always Poog. Not Poog, Poog.
This is left Poog and that is right Poog.
That almost sounds like book learning. Get the brain from his head.
Oh, and that's something that these heroes, they're going to have to explain why goblins start reading.
I mean, maybe it's backwards. Maybe we're starting to see goblin heroes because one of them finally just said, "Can we just read?" It seems really interesting, and that's educated them and then created a more civilized version of the goblin.
Right. 1.0. It's going to use the 1.0 rules. Like where it's created characters and the created adventures that probably going to avoid most of the problems that could crop up there because they can just write around it. But man, that's interesting.
Yes.
I do not know why. Well, I guess they can't use rules that don't exist, and if this has already have printer proofs, we know that they are not done with second edition yet. So it can't be like the dream of this product is that it would be the first taste we get of second, right? That would be the ultimate good thing, like the ultimate dream of this product, right?
Right.
But that can't happen because second edition today doesn't exist.
Right.
And this thing, because of Free RPG Day, they have to get the books. They have to get the books to the boxes. They have to get distributed to the stores. It has an extra long lead time. Huh.
So Andrew's point is, I think, the strongest for why it would be 1.0 is that errata isn't as easily available as the book. A lot of people bought that book, and the people that followed closely know where to get the errata, know what the errata is. But for most people that play first edition, played the playtest, they got a playtest rulebook sitting on their shelf, and if they get an adventure that says playtest rules, those are the rules they're most likely to want.
Makes sense.
Any other thoughts? I know some people in our chat in Discord were trying to speculate on the classes of the we only see 3 of the goblins on the cover. There is a 4th one somewhere. Oh, and I never mentioned this is by Brian Duckwitz.
Well, the 4th one we don't see is obviously Rogue.
Well done. All right, so of the 3 that we do see, I think one of them is pretty clearly a barbarian. He's got the giant hammer. He's got the skull helmet. Skull helmets are usually pretty indicative of barbarians. Then we've got one that is very Robin Hood looking. Fair to say Ranger?
I am saying Ranger, probably, yep.
Okay, now those are 2 classes that we haven't seen on other Goblin pre-gens, so I think that even supports it, that this is a chance to do even more classes as iconic goblins. It's this last one that I'm really confused about. He looks like an investigator, which we know is not in 2nd edition. And the closest thing to an investigator is an alchemist, but he doesn't look like an alchemist. He doesn't have anything that's Telltale Alchemist.
What if it's wizard?
He could be a wizard.
Because then he has to read a book.
Sure, and again, potentially these are the... Oh, Dungeon Novice says he's got a slide whistle. That's what that thing in his hand is. I thought it was a tiny telescope. I could not figure it out. If it's a slide whistle, then he's potentially a bard. And now that I think about it, oh, there we go. Dungeon Novice even says the other one is for sure a bard because of the slide whistle. Bard is very similar to investigator in that way.
And
so
I'm surprised.
I think Dungeon Novice is right.
I'm surprised that the iconic one isn't a bard. I know that Lim, I love Lim in all my heart. Don't want to get rid of him. But goblins are known for their singing and song and dance, and it makes sense that they would be bards.
Ah, but bards inspire competence, and goblins are not known for their competence.
Oh, yeah.
Or their courage.
Well, maybe they get a goblin archetype where they inspire incompetence.
Oh, tell me more. Is that in allies or enemies?
Everything. Blanket statement. Incompetence happens. Chaos ensues. Eat that chicken.
Any final thoughts on Pathfinder module We Be Heroes? Question mark.
I very much look forward to reading it for the flavor and the hilarity of running it. But I think this will be the one I never run more than once, whereas the others get frequent rotation in my play groups.
And just to reiterate, Free RPG Day is June 15th, 2019. That's a Saturday. And the PDF will be available on July 1st. So just a couple of weeks later. Next bit of news. Editor Christopher Carey leaves Paizo. So this is a surprise. Christopher Carey's been with Paizo for a long time. He is an editor, so they're not one of the... it's not one of the jobs that puts them in the forefront. So a lot of people that are familiar with Paizo might not be as familiar with Christopher, and it's not like you can point at that book and say, like, that's clearly a Carey edit. Yeah, well done there.
It's one of the few people that we've never managed to get on the show.
I was trying. I tried for a year to do the editor episode. The editors are the unsung heroes, and kind of a thankless job. And Christopher was one of the editors that I wanted to have on, just based on a conversation I had with him at PaizoCon. And unfortunately, it's no longer going to be the case. One of the things that I remember most, or one of the reasons that Christopher Carey came to my attention above and beyond the other editors, was when Wes Schneider was leaving. His blog post called Christopher Carey out as the best Pathfinder writer whose material nobody's read. And that really intrigued me, and that was something I would have really loved to have talked to him about on the podcast.
Yeah, it would have been a fantastic interview. It just never happened. Oh. But I hope that...
there's not much more to say about that. It's a very nice send-off blog post. So if you are curious to get a little insight into who he was and what his coworkers thought about him, you can check that out on the Paizo blog.
Yeah, I wish much success in future endeavors. Speaking of sponsorships announcement, today it was announced that Dragons and Things, who we did a actual live play at Gen Con with Jason Bowman, they are now an officially sponsored Pathfinder Paizo podcast.
That's right. I got that press release in my email, which I'm putting up right now. What do you know about it?
I know exactly that sentence.
Well then, I know they're on their second season.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe they are doing a homebrew, whereas of the actual play podcasts that are out there for Pathfinder are doing adventure paths. Here we go.
Right.
Dragon and Things officially partners with Paizo. Paizo Inc. has welcomed Two Kings Entertainment LLC into its international fold. International? I thought they were based out of California. All right. International fold of licensed partners where the team will continue to produce epic fantasy tales on their actual stream, Dragons and Things, now it's in its second season. Oh, that's right. So not only are they doing homebrews, but they take suggestions from the audience. So it says that even the GM is not entirely sure which direction things are going to be going. Dragon and Things streams every Friday night at 6 p.m. Pacific. Find it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Patreon with the @DatDragon Show handle. DatDragonShow. This is not a show that I have personally listened to, but like you said, we were on that that live play session at Gen Con, which was a highlight of Gen Con, and everyone that was on the stage, I think, really performed well, was fun, and was one of the contributors to all the fun that us in the live audience, both in the room and the thousands, I believe, of people that watched it live at home.
Yeah, and they were super fun to hang out with before and after the show too. So I am happy to hear this announcement.
Dungeon Novice asks, does this make 4 licensed podcasts? 4. Are you counting Androids and Aliens as a separate one? From Glass Cannon, who were the first licensed ones. Dragon and Things are also licensed.
Pungeon, and Dat. Huh.
What was that?
I don't know. I honestly, I hate to say it, but I don't know all the officially licensed situation. I know that not all the podcasts that appear on their network are licensed podcasts. And the nature of what a licensed podcast means is interesting, and shrouded in mystery. Pungeon is the Starfinder show that Thirsty runs.
Okay.
It is much fun, and it is exactly what you think Thirsty would do running a game.
But wait, it's called Pungeon, which is clearly a play on Dungeon, but it's a Starfinder show?
Yep.
I'm questioning how on point his branding is. I'm saying
Pungeon Crawl. Like Dungeon Novice is saying
Pungeon Crawl. Well, even more.
Hey, Starfinder is space fantasy. We got our dungeons. They're just in asteroids.
Then you should come up with another name.
You come up with another name. You're the one that stole our spaceships.
Maybe I would have now if I could come up with one by now, but I haven't. So I guess Pungeon it is. All right, Param. Those are the items I would categorize it
as news.
We've got a little bit of time here, so I'm going to go through the topics that I've got that we can potentially cover here, and we can always return to in the future.
Roger.
We've got Pathfinder designer Mark Seifter talks about how 2E is going to be much easier to unchain, that there's going to be a lot more modularity to the rules, and it's going to be easier to swap systems in and out without totally throwing off the math.
And I believe that. I totally believe that sentence from everything I've seen in both the playtest and what they've talked about.
Now, that's a topic we can dive into. It would probably take the rest of the episode.
Yes.
And it would be purely speculative at this point.
And it would be
could still be some interesting speculation. All right, this is something that we talked about talking about. Backstories and talking about. This was a topic that came up in Discord. And just how in-depth your backstory should be, or should it be expected to be, and what the advantages of detailed versus micro backstories is.
I want that for a future one. I want that one.
I'm going to say, this one that's too meaty for what we've got left. Yeah. We've got your list of topics that you alluded to wanting to talk to me about, and I refused to even hear the topics because that's content.
You cut me off of one very specific one.
Okay.
I don't remember what it was.
At least what the topic is?
Lord, no. I've been trying to look that up since before the episode, but I was also managing to pull the episode together with chewing gum and duct tape, so that didn't happen.
Yep. Okay, so that's another save for another time one.
Yeah, especially since it's a list of 5 million things. Like I know one of them was to talk about like some of the dungeon tile-y stuff I've been looking into and discovering lately, because that's always a fun thing I want to talk about, and I have made many strides forward on that. But that's also potentially really meaty.
We talked about it that long ago. Like
Yeah,
it was September or so. We talked about it last.
Right, and I want to save revisiting that for when I have a nice selection of material to show off.
Then I think the last topic is the one that we're just going with by default, but probably also the one we should be talking about the most. I've joined a Curse of the Crimson Throne campaign.
Curse of the Crimson Throne campaign?
A Curse of the Crimson Throne campaign.
Curses.
So this is a game that we are playing entirely online. We're playing it on Roll20. And, I am picking up some tips on Roll20 that I'm going to bring to Adventurous, by the way.
Oh, excellent. What tips? Come on, tell me.
I have not memorized, but now know a command so that when you roll, your roll is automatically added to the initiative tracker. So you know how Vanessa made that macro?
Yeah, the really cool macro. I love it.
know the code that you can type in without needing the macro.
But what? But is it better code or is the button better?
It's not a button. It's just if you have this, you just copy and paste it, and then you can use it over and over again.
Oh. Okay, that sounds cool. What else? What else did you learn? Tell me all your
sure there was something else. I know our GM is mad talented with the dynamic lighting. Like we're peeking into windows, and it's like just like a lantern shot of this is the light you would be seeing through there. Now, I've seen dynamic lighting used mostly just as a radius around your character with hard angles stopping you, but like taking the time to cut out every single window, that is much appreciated hard work.
I very much appreciate the dynamic lighting options that are available in Roll20. But I also very much dislike using them for when I'm playing Pathfinder, because Pathfinder has very specific important rules on how its lighting works and how vision works that you can't duplicate in Roll20.
Interesting. Like what?
It uses Roll20 uses real world physics for how light bounces off of from a central point on your square. But in Pathfinder, your sight is not the center point of your square. It is every corner of your square, which means that when you are adjacent to a window, you have a wide cone of view. When you're peeping around corners, it is what allows in Pathfinder and Starfinder for you to simulate the situation where you run up to a corner and put your back to it and then pop out around the corner to snipe while still having cover.
Okay.
And when you're using dynamic lighting and you put yourself in that position in Roll20, you are completely blind because it calculates from your center and not your corners.
Okay, that's valid, and that's something that I don't plan on sniping, but if it does ever come up, I will mention to my GM that that's a difference between dynamic lighting and Pathfinder lighting.
I have also come up with a solution for it for Roll20.
Go on.
You give your character an eyeball token a character that has to care about that, you give them an eyeball token that is also assigned to them. It can just be a dot or an eyeball or whatever, or a little glowing point. But anyway, it basically is a second character they control that they also have vision for. And then when the player needs to test vision from one of their corners, they can put it in the correct adjacent square that they would be able to see from.
That's interesting. I like that a lot. All right, that's something I'm going to bring to my next Curse game.
It mostly affects ranged characters. It's not fun to play a ranged character using and being completely blind because you can't see what you're supposed to be able to see and shoot.
Yeah, that seems important.
Yep. Anyway, sorry for a random tangent. How are you enjoying Curse?
It's
supposed to be like one of the better storylines of the APs, and one that I've avoided spoiling for myself because I've always wanted to run it.
So it's one that really hits the ground running. Like I am used to a lot longer between the start of the session and the first combat, but really we show up in a place and someone's like, can you go here and fight these dudes? And we're like, yeah, all right, we can go fight these dudes. You know, we have the choice to not fight these dudes. But just the fact that the campaign is a political intrigue campaign, which I'm playing a lot of right now. Boy, but I do find it odd that I'm not doing any more sword and sorcery games, which I also enjoy. But yeah, it's there's very little subterfuge to the opening quest giving. It really, unless it's just how my GM happened to play it, but we were at the location of the first fight and the first significant interaction with the backstory elements for the campaign as they relate to our characters. Like right away, we were given a nice opportunity between the point where we were given the quest to where we were supposed to be to have some nice in-character conversation. Dungeon Novice is asking me how far we've gotten. I've only played the one session. We played for 1 hour. We played a 3-hour session, but a lot of it was just getting to know each other and getting some people used to the game. Because I should talk about who the players are. I've got some of my coworkers, some of my friends have joined this group. It is run by Kiela, who goes by Lilith or Lilith online, not to be confused with Lilith. She's just someone that my coworker Will became friends with online, and somehow the topic of running an online game came up, and Will put together this group, which included himself, myself, my friend Emily, who people might remember from the MCU episode of Geek Together from last year, and then my friend Beardy Face, Mark Hamill, not the Mark Hamill you're thinking about, although he does have a beardy face now, and Lar from Blind Ferret, the artist of Looking for Group and Least I Can Do, who, despite being the oldest person in the group by a large margin, is the least experienced role player, but is super gung-ho for it. It's one of the delights of this campaign, and one of the reasons that I made time for it was the opportunity to roleplay with Lar, who has the role-playing down, but it's the rules that he's still getting used to. And he's playing an alchemist, which we warned him, like, this is a very technical class, and it's not something that anyone in the group has this as much familiarity with. So we'll try and help him out as we can, but there might be some delays when we're working out the rules. But he is just so engaged with the concept of the alchemist. Plus, he's playing a gnome alchemist, and he's really loving bringing the gnome stuff to the forefront. So, Dungeon Novice is saying, I must know of Lars' character's aesthetic design. Well, I can answer that question by sharing an image, because his artwork is already done.
If you send me a link, I
can I share images in chat?
Yeah, put it in the Discord chat, and I can take it from there and put it up on screen.
Done. Or, in the process of doing it. So, yeah, if you want to know what Lars' character looks like, this is Will's artistic rendition of it.
Okay, I'm pulling it up. Hold that on now. Some patience, please. So what can you tell me more about this character while I do this and I need stalling?
I mean, known alchemist is the main thing, and I don't remember his name offhand.
And there he is. That is beautiful.
Yeah.
That Dick Tracy look is perfect.
So in exchange, Will made that art for Lar. So to thank him for helping with the character, Lar made this art for Will's character, which you can share as soon as people have really fully taken in the majesty that is Will's art for Lar's character.
Okay, and transitioning. Wow, that is that is something special.
I'm not going to say it's a step up from the Will art.
No,
but it's at least a step sideways.
That sword, is it Magus?
No, what is Will's character? He is...
Is that cool fighter archetype that gets the freaking shadow swords?
No, the reason for the fire is because he is a worshiper of Serenray, and he took the trait where on a critical hit you do 1 fire damage.
Okay. And that is pure justification for gigantic fire sword.
Yeah, there is an arc of fire that goes all around him.
Oh, man, you can guarantee by level 5 he has a +1 flaming sword.
and on a crit, it's +1 plus 1, or flaming +1
plus
because
1.
of the what is Will? Will, I believe, is a cleric of Sarenrae.
Sarenrae is just a great goddess. One of the ones I love for Pathfinder. First is because there's lots of reasons. First is that she is definitely a good goddess. Also, she's a good goddess that encourages burning things as a solution when necessary. Clerics of Sarenrae get Fireball as a spell. And there is nothing more fun than an inexperienced GM getting just completely caught off guard when the cleric says, "I cast Fireball." and finally, it's one of the primary goddesses of the game, and she is described in a very non-Western fantasy setting. She's got this whole Egyptian Middle Eastern influence in both her look and in the iconic cleric when we get to see them, and that is just like our textbook poster goddess is not what you see in every other fantasy game.
So now that you're done with that, I will correct myself and say that he's a human fighter, not a cleric. Just a fan of Sarenrae. It is Beardy Face's character, Borden, who is a paladin of Sarenrae. He is our worshiper of Sarenrae. So won't be getting a fireball, unfortunately. But it did lead to an encounter with a dog. Small spoiler. But
Hey, don't put him down. Eventually, there's nothing saying that he can't get fireball eventually. Don't limit his options. Don't diminish those dreams.
All right. Maybe someday he will be the paladin with fireball. He could get a necklace of fireball. I guess
there are so many ways to do this. There are so many ways because Pathfinder is one of the most robust systems in the world. There's ways to make sure that paladin will be casting fireball as much as they want.
Well, it's funny that you're talking about all this fire because we do have the human fighter who just through a trait can deal fire damage. We've got this paladin that apparently will one day get a fireball. We have an alchemist, so you know they're dealing fire damage.
Right.
Well, my character is a half-orc Ghost Rider Cavalier. Do you remember our interview with Brandon Hodge and Eric Mona about Occult Adventures? Wait, no, you weren't in on that, were you?
No, it was the one I missed. I hated missing it because two of my favorite people to talk to are Brandon Hodge and Eric Mona. Eric Mona's charismatic as crap in any interview, and Hodge is fascinating at the obscura that man has in his brain. Every single talk should just go on forever because you will be endlessly entertained with it, and then it will eventually end in a stuffed Cthulhu running into the room and chanting.
A significant portion of that interview was just me marking out about the Ghost Rider Cavalier archetype. It's fairly simple. It's basically instead of getting a horse mount, you get a horse phantom. Otherwise, you're a cavalier with a couple of tiny occulty details here and there. But I was obsessed with trying to get a flaming phantom. And so I turned over to our Discord chat, the Pathfinder channel, and some people have given me some options for giving myself some flaming qualities and giving my mount some flaming qualities by taking a specific path with the pyrokineticist. So even though we've got fire plenty covered in this party, and even though this is a political intrigue adventure path, the potential to go full Ghost Rider with my character and just get a flaming skull and a flaming mount is really tempting to me. Dating back to that wonderful interview. So I may have to dip into Kineticist, which works out well because Kineticist is con primarily as their stat, and my con's great. So even though it wasn't my intention, I have the stats to back up that choice.
That's wonderful. At least they're not playing Legacy of Fire, in which all that fire would be worthless.
Oh man, yeah.
Or Wrath of the Righteous, also worthless.
Someone in chat, who was it? Bastille is asking if that's a mullet. That is indeed a mullet. Now, Lar based this character's likeness enough on Will that Will can use it as an avatar. Will does not have a mullet. That was complete creative license on Lar's part. So if you appreciate the mullet, I will pass the compliment along. If not, I will pass shame along to Lar. The last character in the party, the only one, or at least the furthest one from fire at this particular moment, to the best of my knowledge, is Emily's character, Romy, who is a halfling bard. And I'm glad that I am now an expert at bards, having played Xavier for several. So that a lot of the not pratfalls, the pitfalls of the bard, especially at first level, to a player who hasn't got them, I am there to at least tell her, yeah, I know they get fascinate and distract. Those sound like they should be super useful abilities that you're using all the time, but the rules are actually more specific than those really broad names indicate they should be. Mm-hmm. So yes, you get 7 class features at first level. You will use 3 of them. I know you're almost better off not having fascinate and distract on the bard class feature list. They are more frustrating and tempting than they are useful. Mm-hmm. And so me being there to be able to reassure her that it's like, Emily, I know it's your turn. You're taking a long time thinking about it. Let me just reassure you. Don't even think about these options. I will tell you this very minor, specific situations where you can be fascinating or distracting. And until then, focus on these other class features, and it'll make your turn go a lot faster. It'll make your decision a lot easier. Because it is an easy decision. But boy, do fascinate and distract sound like they should always be an option.
They really should, and eventually they are, but through spells and not those class abilities.
Yeah, there are ways that you can fascinate a person, but fascinate is not the way to do it. Likewise, there are rules for distracting people. Distract is not the way to do it. No. It's really unfortunate. Oh, and the other thing, so she's got a dancing background, and so she put a whole bunch of ranks into acrobatics because, you know, she's like, yeah, it's flavorful, it makes sense, so I'm going to be an acrobat because I'm such a good dancer. And I'm like, those are the best reasons to do it, and unfortunately the class hates you for it, because next level you're going to get an ability that lets you use your perform in place of that acrobatics check because you're such a good dancer. But you only get it at 2nd level. So for 1 level, you're going to be a great dancer who is a terrible acrobat, and any ranks you put into acrobatics are going to be wasted as of 2nd level. It's a really annoying time to get that ability. And I'm sorry that the game has betrayed you because your reasoning was so on point, Emily. I'm sorry. There's just some things about the game that there is no excuse. There's only an apology. Bard wannabe. Who,
any chance you can get her to be a fire dancer and just like embrace the burning?
The next time we're getting ready to play, I'm going to bring up, we are this close to being a crazy fire party. Now, they don't know anything about my plans to be the fire ghost rider. So I'll have to say, like, you may think we're 3/5 fire-related characters. We're actually very close to being 4/5. So, Emily, here's what you need to do with your bard. Just based on the light conversations we've had about her character, and this will inform the backstory conversation we're eventually going to have, I don't think that she has that in mind. So she might be the non-fire member of the fire party. It happens. Mm-hmm. Maybe she'll even not have any kind of energy. She'll be the Mr. Fantastic of the Fantastic Four, surrounded by all these weird rock, air, and fire people.
Now, she does choose to be a flame dancer, though.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If she what Emily has in mind, what's your plan?
No. Since, you can get rid of some of those things, including suggestion and countersong, and instead get fireballs, burning hands, flaming spheres, resistances to fire for you and your friends, so that those fireballs, flaming spheres, and all the other fire you're all throwing around don't kill yourselves, and also be immune to heat stroke and fatigue, because that's cool too. You don't get Dirge of Doom. You don't get suggestion. You get Song of the Fiery Gaze, which is any ally within 30 feet of the bard who hears this performance can see through fire, fog, and smoke. So that opens up all kinds of tactical options.
What book is this from?
This is from the Advanced Class Guide.
All right. Mm-hmm. I am seeing Emily tomorrow. I might bring my Advanced Class Guide.
Mm-hmm. There's so many cool things, and like I said, at 3rd level you get the resistant the see through fire stuff. You get resistances to fire at 6th level. Yeah, 8th level, you get a bunch of fire spells to add it to your spell list. It's great. It's fantastic.
All right, we are officially renaming the campaign "Burn the Crimson Throne."
It's already half burnt anyway.
I mean, it's cursed. Who wants to sit on that thing? Nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Alrighty.
Can you see Bestial's comment about the video looks good? Is that apropos something?
I asked in chat how the video looked.
Oh, there we go.
Because we have recently gotten a quality upgrade on your components, and I'm super glad. The video quality for the show should go way up and open up some avenues for content that we were locked away from doing earlier, though no commitments on air for things we haven't talked about. But this opens up possibility space that didn't exist.
Luis gets the last shout out of the episode. Curse of the Crispy Throne.
Luis, you are a genius.
Have I mentioned lately how much I love Luis?
We all love Luis.
I think we're about ready to wrap up this episode that I don't think quite went the way anyone was expecting, but I had a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Until next time, I'm Ryan Costello. Oh, no, Param, tell people where they can find out more about No Direction and find all the No Direction things.
Okay. No Direction is more than just our charismatic, rambling voices. You can also enjoy our blog content or our many other podcasts, including the Actual Play podcast, Adventurous, No Direction Beyond, our Starfinder podcast, the occasional Geek Together, where Ryan, Kathy, and other randoms talk about super cool things in geeky and bringing people together around them, as well as our amazing bloggers out there. Randall, who was on the podcast with us earlier, is one of those amazing bloggers. Louise, who we keep talking about, is one of the others, as well as Andrew, who couldn't make it with us. And man, way too many for me to just ramble off on one of these impromptu shout outs, but the blog content on our network is just amazing. New stuff out almost every single day, as well as links to our Discord server, where you can talk with members of the network and the community anytime you want. Most of us are on there. Randall is definitely king of being most active, but most of the network members are fairly active on there, so if you ever wanted to chat with us on anything, that's a great place too, as well as the secret Insiders channel, which is tied in with our Patreon supporters that you can also find that on our website, nodirectionpodcast.com. You can find the Patreon link, and at a certain level of Patreon backers, you would get access to our Insider channel on Discord, where we tell you some secrets about stuff we're planning and stuff that's coming up that we're not sure about, and get your opinions on.
Yeah, I have an insider question that I'm going to be asking sometime tomorrow. Just it's Adventurous related. So I'm just kind of gauging
some of the
interest.
first sneak peeks of RPG Design Club are in there right now.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, that was one of the things I was going to suggest when you were talking about what are you going to do with your downtime. Any thoughts about playtesting your system?
If I can get it to a point where it's playtestable, then sure. I don't like. There's a lot involved in that, so it's not there yet. I'm not sure the timing. Like, honestly, my first set of playtests for that system is going to be available near Gen Con at my current trajectory, to the point that I'm even trying to consider about like throwing my hat in the ring there to have some like playtest games on the Gen Con schedule.
I endorse this. I think you should.
Yes, that would be cool. Anyway, but most of our listeners don't even know what we're talking about with my game or anything, which they will very soon.
Very soon?
Very soon. Very soon, yeah. Editing on the first episode's done. Editing on the other episodes are proceeding. We're recording episode 5 and 6 shortly. So, like, the pipeline is full and ready to burst.
Excellent. I'm excited.
Yeah. We have a cool logo, and it animates. I was so proud of that. That was so cool. Anyway, I'm rambling
Until
now.
next time, I'm Ryan Costello.
And I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Param.
And if you want to find